16, section B00 for the assignment Ethical Dilemma. My parents' email is aguilarra105@gmail.com. So, the prompt for this video is interview one of your parents about an ethical dilemma they faced in the past. So, to define an ethical dilemma is a choice that has someone's core values in conflict. For context of the ethical dilemma that I'm about to present, which is my mom's, while she was pregnant with me, she had also discovered that my dad had cheated on her and had another kid. The kid is 2 years older than me. At the time, my parents were already raising my two older brothers, and with this heartbreaking news, ultimately it made my mom question whether she should stay or leave with my dad. This ethical dilemma will be in the perspective of my mom's. Gather the fact. To gather the facts, what would you have liked to know? Some of the things that my mom would have liked to know is whether she would be able to make it in this world as a single parent if she did leave this relationship. Obviously, in one of her biggest worries was leaving and not being able to provide for her family. Another thing is, how would this affect our family dynamic? Because leaving would have meant breaking the family apart, and obviously, all our family is very close. So, breaking that apart would have been quite difficult. Another fact she would have liked to know is whether this pregnancy was a blessing in disguise to bring her more strength and an opportunity to learn from it. Moving on to step 2, defining the ethical issue. The ethical dilemma in this situation for my mom was to either forgive my dad and work it out to keep our family together, or not keep the child and raise my older siblings as a single mom. The core values that were in conflict in this was family, self-respect, integrity, and trust. Obviously, my mom is a huge family person, and in this, you will see sometimes she does put family before herself. For her, keeping the family together was for the sake of her children, but it was challenged because staying with my dad, she'd have to really persevere in order to keep this family structure alive. Another that conflicted with her values of self-respect. Obviously, my mom is a very strong woman and she has personal values, personal boundaries, and dignity that she wanted to show to her children that when you get disrespected by someone, you don't stay for it to constantly happen again and again. And staying with my dad would make it feel like she's compromising her self-worth after this betrayal. And then lastly, another value that was in conflict is trust. She values trust and the transparency within relationships, but in this situation, the trust had been broken and rebuilding it would have been very difficult. Moving on to step 3, identifying the stakeholders. The stakeholders in this scenario is myself, obviously. One of the major decisions that my mom had to make is going through with the pregnancy or not. And if she would have not gone on with this pregnancy, I would have not been born into this world, along with another stakeholder, which is my immediate family, my brothers, as seen in this picture, and my younger sister, who is a year younger than me. Not seen in this picture, I don't have pictures of them, but my stepsister would have been another stakeholder because if my mom would have left my dad would have gone on to ra raise my stepsister and been would have been more in her life. So that would have affected she would have been affected in this situation, which is why I put her as an extended family. And why are these stakeholders important? Because the family dynamic is what was really being tested in this situation. Now, on to our consequences model. I will be looking at the consequences between both cases and seeing which case has the better gains and less consequences. So in the first case where my mom would have stayed, some of the consequences are emotional pain and trust issues would have gained from this. Also, the co-parenting challenges that would be balancing out two children and another child for my dad's. And another consequence that my mom brought up was that by staying, it would have limited her from finding someone else that probably would have treated her the way she deserved and had a completely different life than she does now. Moving on to the case two, where she would leave. Some of the consequences are the financial and emotional hardship that is after finding out heartbreaking news, even after such a great news that is a pregnancy. The last consequence that would she would have faced in case two is my brothers experiencing confusion and emotional loss. They were very young when my mom found out the news, and even for me, most of my siblings and I, we didn't find out about the whole history behind our family until we were much older and understood all the topics that went on in this. So, under this model, the best decision would be to leave and live a peaceful life and maybe find someone that that would have treated my mom much better. Step five, which is the obligations model. In this model, we look at what kind of a world would we live in if everyone did the same thing. If everyone left and didn't keep the baby, that would have really limited people in being able to persevere and gain lessons from this. And also just the emotional hardship of having to not go through with pregnancies. If that was constantly happening, mentally speaking, I don't think the person going through it would have been okay. So in this model, staying and keeping the family together would have been the correct choice. Step 6, the integrity model. In this model, we look at what a good person would do. And the best decision in this model is to stay, keep the baby, and also keep the family together. Have done. When I asked my mom this question of something else that she would have done, she was looking at other cases in which she would have left, but kept all kids and raising them as a single mother. Another thing she wishes she would have done is communicated with a trustworthy source of what she was going through in order to get advice. Because this is such a complex situation where it can be difficult to identify completely what right is from wrong. So getting a second opinion would have really helped her. And also the support that from this trusted source, the emotional support that she would have gotten would have been a great help if she would have left. Lastly, what did your gut tell you for step 8? Was this the correct choice? When interviewing my parent, we both came to the consensus that there are certain aspects in her choice in which she was correct. That is keeping the baby. She kept me, and thankfully, I have been able to live 20 years thanks to my mom making the decision of keeping the kid after such a difficult and heartbreaking pregnancy. However, her gut tells her that staying wasn't the best choice. She does think a lot that if she would have left, she would have for sure been able to raise 3 kids. And along this, there has been many other difficulties within her relationship with my dad that over the years has shown her she is ready to leave and move on in order for her to live her own life now that her children are all grown up. To summarize, in this situation, my mom had learned some heartbreaking news and it put her in a situation where she had to choose between staying with my dad or not going through a pregnancy and leaving. And from her ethical dilemma, I learned that she went through probably one of the most personal and complex situations, but the strength in her decision has shaped our family. I have a couple pictures down below, and my family, that's not even most of my family. My family's really big. And because of her decision in keeping this family together, over the years, we've been able to forgive people and grow even closer as a family. And another thing I personally learned is my mom truly thinks of me as a blessing